so much has happened since you came on. I mean, so much has happened, right? Like the number one thing being David Weiss was indeed forced to indict several felony cases or counts against Hunter for the very things you guys said he did and were called aggrieved and biased and disgruntled for saying were legit crimes that ought to be charged. So let me ask you first for your reaction. I mean, do you feel vindicated? Gary, I'll start with you.
So, yeah, I mean, all along we brought the facts forward and this wasn't something that we chose to do. It's not something we wanted to do. We had to do it because, it's all about the equal protection of individuals under the law. And it was clear that the Delaware U.S. Attorney's Office and the Department of Justice wasn't treating this particular taxpayer the same as he would anyone else. So in terms of vindication, I don't really need to be vindicated. I'm fine. I'm gonna be fine because I'm doing what I know is right. But yeah, I mean, him coming forward and charging what we Joe and I recommended all along is just really support for the fact that DOJ needs to assign someone to come in and look at Weiss's conduct and his team's conduct.
Joseph, when you saw that plea deal fall apart because that judge went through it with a fine-tooth comb and realized, though it had not been appropriately fronted to her, that they were trying to give him this sweetheart deal that would have gotten him off on everything, not just what was explicitly reflected. You must have been so proud of her. You must have just felt like, thank God, there are honest brokers left in this system.
Yeah, I felt at that point listened to. And after I reviewed that plea agreement and the statement of facts, I kind of understood that they were misrepresenting stuff to the court. And it was very apparent in that statement of facts that they put forward. And the crazy thing for me is that if that would have been pushed forward, we wouldn't be sitting where we're at right now with a felony indictment for tax charges. We wouldn't be sitting here right now, him awaiting these charges. All the things that we said all along is the reason why Gary and I came forward, the equal treatment of taxpayers. That's so important in this.
Mm-hmm. So what do you make of the actual charges that have been brought against him? The felony counts on tax evasion out in California in particular, but again, not for the years 14 or 15, the years he was dealing with Burisma and the Chinese energy company. Those did not make the dance because they let the statute of limitations require. So what do you make, Joseph, on the actual charges that have been brought?
Yeah, so I think that it's important for your listeners to understand that in this indictment, there are felony tax charges. So all along, the Biden family attorneys have been saying that all the taxes have been paid. This is a civil issue. Like, we shouldn't be dealing with this anymore. They would never charge this case. But if you look at count 6 and 7 in the indictment, it's the tax evasion, and false return charges. And those actually allege that Hunter willfully filed a false tax return and claimed deductions that he wasn't allowed to. And that would come up with an amount of tax due and owing or additional taxes that he's owed that is not paid to the IRS. And any of those things are we would hold everyone else accountable under the law, and it's equal treatment under the law.
That's exactly what his lawyer says is not happening. Abby Lowell, Gary, saying any average citizen would not have had to pay, would not be charged with these felonies. And the only reason he's being charged is because his name is Hunter Biden, saying he paid back the money. He had the sugar daddy friend who paid back the money. And the IRS, under these normal circumstances with a regular civilian, would have said, you know what, we got our dough, let's move on. Is that true?
No, that's not even close to accurate. I mean, we early on we gave a case that of Daryl D'Souza, who is the police chief of Baltimore City, who had a tenth of the tax loss, and they only charged him with misdemeanors, and he went to jail. And you can simply go to the Department of Justice Tax Division, and they'll have press releases on cases that they work. I mean, you can see hundreds of them in the last year or two where the tax losses are much less and the conduct is much less egregious, where they're criminally prosecuting these people. And, I have a long career of doing that as a supervisor and an agent. And if this person with over $2 million tax loss was anyone else, was a corner store, they'd be in jail. I mean, and it's just it's antithetical to the mission of IRS CI.
All right, I've got to get into something. This is a little in the weeds, but it's important. And my audience is up to speed because we've been following it closely here on the show. One of the key allegations that you made, and in particular you, Gary, you were the person running herd on this at the IRS. And Joseph's like one of the most respected investigators within the IRS. Apparently, you guys are like special forces of the IRS working together on this. But one of the allegations you made when you first came forward was that you talked to David Weiss, the U.S. attorney who was investigating this whole thing, before he was made special counsel, after you came out saying, hello, we need something, need some more authority here, was that you had a meeting with David Weiss when you were pushing for him to indict this case. And you were going to need to indict it in California and in Washington, D.C., where the most serious charges were, not just in Delaware, where Weiss obviously had authority because he was the U.S. attorney for Delaware. And you documented in your notes a meeting in which you said that David Weiss admitted to you, I don't have the authority. I don't have the authority to bring the charges myself in California and D.C. DOJ hasn't given me that. And I've explained to the audience, we've talked about this many times, that happens often. The U.S. attorney for Delaware would not have the authority to go charge something in California normally, but they may be investigating a case in which crimes from their defendant have occurred there. So it's very simple. They go to DOJ Central and they ask for a permission slip and they get it. And then they work with the U.S. attorney out in California or wherever to bring the case. Happens all the time. But you alleged that David Weiss admitted to you he had not been given that authority because you were like, let's bring the charges in California. Why isn't it happening? And he denied it. He denied your charge. And so did Merrick Garland. They basically came out without using the word liar and called you one, saying, you're wrong. He had full authority all along to do whatever he wanted. And I'm going to play those sound bites, and I want the audience to understand as they listen to them, David Weiss, once he got under oath in front of Congress behind closed doors, admitted Gary was right. All right, so these statements are not true that I'm about to play for you, but they were said by Merrick Garland repeatedly, and I could do David Weiss's too, but they were in paper. Here he is, first of all, after you came forward in June. This is Merrick Garland saying, the DOJ did not block Weiss from prosecuting anywhere. Here it is, SOT 18.
I don't know how it would be possible for anybody to block him from bringing a prosecution, given that he has this authority. So he was given complete authority to make all decisions on his own.
Okay, so this is Merrick Garland, who clearly doesn't want responsibility for having said, no, you're not getting the slip. You're not getting the permission slip to bring those charges against Hunter. And here he is in a longer montage saying similar things throughout this case, trying to lead us all to believe he had given him complete authority. It's all a David Weiss operation. Me, Merrick Garland, who? Me, I only authorized everything. I never stopped or slow-rolled a thing. SOT 20.
The U.S. attorney in Delaware has been advised that he has full authority to make those kind of referrals that you're talking about, or to bring cases in other jurisdictions if he feels it's necessary. And I will assure that if he does, he will be able to do that.
Weiss has told Congress that he has been granted ultimate authority over this matter.
Mr. Weiss had, in fact, more authority than a special counsel would have. He had and has complete authority, as I said, to bring a case anywhere he wants. I don't know how it would be possible for anybody to block him from bringing a prosecution, given that he has this authority. He was given complete authority to make all decisions on his own.
Well, what we learned was that when David Weiss got called before Congress and actually had to give testimony about this under oath, which is very different than putting out a paper statement to the media, he, according to Jim Jordan, as reported in the New York Post, testified as possible. When he was specifically asked, did you ever request special attorney authority? That you'd be labeled a special attorney if you were sort of the guy from Delaware prosecuting in California or in D.C. His answer was yes, that he did request it, but that it was not granted. He did ask to have the special permission slip in California, in Washington, D.C., and he was told no by DOJ. So you were right. And once again, they smeared you and then had to admit it when the rubber met the road. Gary, what was your reaction when you heard that news?
Well, I'm just happy that he actually told the truth. So, I mean, all along, I knew what the truth was, and we knew what the facts were, and I was made point for IRS to deal with David Weiss. I had multiple meetings with David Weiss, calls with David Weiss on an ongoing basis, and to see him, actually answer the question affirmatively and not legalese some language in a letter was actually pretty comforting, and it gave me a little bit of faith restored. But at the October 7th meeting, everything that happened, we have the luxury now of seeing what happened, after the fact, and everything that I said, all the notes I took contemporaneously, handwritten, and then emailed to my supervisors, have been absolutely confirmed. And I knew all along what the truth was. It was just up to others to tell the truth.
Negative dings on credit reports happen to all sorts of people from all socioeconomic backgrounds. Understanding the credit landscape can be extremely tough, and spending the time to dispute and repair these so-called dings can be a full-time job. Good luck to you if you already have one of those, or kids, or anything going on in your life. For starters, you have to deal with 3 separate credit bureaus, which is a massive headache and unpleasant. It's also a common misconception that people with poor credit scores are just those who don't pay their credit card bills. These actually can be very hardworking people who are negatively affected by divorce, identity theft, medical debt, student loans, or some such thing. And they just don't have the time, or they're just too overwhelmed to fix it. But if you don't address negative credit items, they can haunt you for years to come. And when it counts the most, like getting a mortgage at a competitive rate. Well, the good news is that our sponsor, Lexington Law, wants to help. Go to lexingtonlaw.com and start today with a free consultation and review. Tell them Megyn sent you at lexingtonlaw.com. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.